project on the docket here. Um, I started this YouTube video thing maybe, I don't know, about a year ago. I've got some really old couple videos from me back in the day, dynoing cars and stuff like that from when I used to own Triple R Autosports. I still do the rotary thing. I do it quite well, but the people in the area, it's just one of those things. The rotary deal isn't profitable, for one. Two, the people that you have to deal with, some are really good, don't get me wrong. A lot of the guys are really good, and women that I deal with RX-7s and Miatas and stuff like that are absolutely phenomenal. But you get a lot of customers that don't realize just how expensive RX-7s of all generations can be to maintain, build properly. I believe in building a vehicle and not cutting corners at any cost. And RX-7's rotary engine specifically is one of those engines you just don't cut any corners on. And that being said, you end up building cars for these guys that end up being, $25, $30, $35, $40,000 before you even know it, and they're crying or whining because of how expensive it is, and they want to go V8, and they got all this money. Whatever. That's not what I'm. It was too stressful. So we ended up shutting down for the most part Triple R Autosports. Again, I still do it. My personal car is still sitting there on a dolly collecting dust, holding concrete down, but eventually I will put that car back on the road, and eventually I'll actually do a full YouTube video on that. I've developed some pretty cool turbo kits for those things over the years on that car, headers and everything else. I've actually got quite a few really good performance-oriented parts that really work quite well, specifically for the FC or the second generation body style RX-7s. That's the car that I chose to drive personally. I love that car. I'd actually drive a second gen over a third gen any day, but I do own all three, or had owned all three at one point in time, plus the RX-8. So between the RX-8 and the second generation RX-7, second generation RX-7 being the primary car that I would take, those are the two that I love, and Miatas as well. But that being said, again, with moving into times and what the demand is for my area, and what I just think is plainly cool projects to work on, is trucks. I got into doing Cummins stuff. You guys saw, hopefully, one of my other videos with the twin turbo 24 valve truck that I built, which I'm going to do another video on that one really soon, because again, dealing with our pump builder for the P7100, I finally got to the bottom of what was actually up with that truck, and I'll go into more detail on that. But that truck is a monster, and it's still a snowplow truck, but I built that truck for the owner, which is my cousin, but I built them with him to do dual purpose for being a street vehicle as well as an outlaw street class truck. And in Southeast Wisconsin, outlaw street class means basically run what you brung. They did turn it into a points class, but again, I'm babbling about that. More on that truck comes, but that thing is an animal. It's very close to 1,000 horsepower and very close to 1,800 foot-pounds of torque, and it's just a beast. And to try to snowplow with that thing is incredible. So again, more on that one down the road. I want to get into that one in much more detail. But project at hand, new project at hand. What we got here is, again, what started out to be a plow truck, and we don't know if it's going to continue to be a plow truck or if it's going to be just a good old boy truck. I really want this thing to be a good old boy truck, but it's not mine. It's the owner's. Again, is my uncle's, and he really wants to have a good old boy truck to take back to Tennessee. And oddly enough, the body of this truck is from Tennessee, the Morristown area. So if any of my viewers are from that area, hi, nice to meet you, and you might see this truck down there running around. So at any rate, what this particular truck is, it started life out as a 1987 318 truck, four-wheel drive, was a white cab, white box, white body, it was actually kind of a cool truck. I don't know if there was a special Dodge or whatever, but it actually had the General Lee wheels on it from the factory, which we no longer actually have the General Lee wheels. We got some just your basic Steely 15 or 15 by 7s, I think these things are. What the hell are these anyway? I don't even remember. They are, yeah, they're 15-inch. So now we're running 33, 12, 5, 15s on this thing, and it actually really looks good. And if you look at the stance, it's actually, I think, really nice. It's not too wide. It's not, the wheels aren't stuck in, but it's just for me personally, I would have liked to have gone out maybe another inch or so, but again, I gotta really learn to stop babbling on this. But obviously, you can see it was a plow truck, short wheelbase truck. So it was a 6-foot bed, 4-wheel drive, 318 originally. It was a plow truck its whole entire life. It was originally bought by a municipality, I think, or a private company that just had it at a retirement home, and the only purpose for this thing was to play snowplow at the retirement home and just do odd jobs, or the owner would have the caretaker doing odd jobs and whatnot. But at any rate, as with Wisconsin weather, we get rust. This thing, the body, original white body, rotted so bad that you could basically see through the doors. The bed was falling apart. We had to have it chained together. This light is stupid bright. Sorry about that. We had to have the box chained together, and it was just falling apart. So the body that you see here we bought a 1985 two-wheel drive, 8-foot bed truck out of Tennessee, around the Morristown area. That, oddly enough, was a repossession. And this purchase was, I think he picked this thing up 10 years ago or so out of Tennessee. And it was only like $900 owed on it. So he picked this whole truck up for $925. Again, it was 8-foot bed, 2-wheel drive, manual transmission, 318 truck. That we didn't know what to do with it. Bad thing about this particular red truck was it had a sunroof in it, and it wasn't a very good sunroof at all. It was a hack job, crap thing, leaked like a sieve, whatever. But they dented the roof and did all kinds. Yeah, it was just terrible. So we needed to figure out what the hell to do with it, and the white truck, this truck, the body rotted out so damn bad that we're like, yeah, okay, we're gonna do a body swap. So much like the compound turbo truck, we did a body swap. This one, instead of going with an 8-foot bed, we're gonna leave the 6-foot bed, short bed, on it. But we're gonna again make it into a really nice, good old boy truck. So what we see here is where I'm at. I just finished up putting epoxy on the roof. Let me climb up there. I fixed the roof. This is the sheet metal that I cut out of it. The interior piece and this is actually off the white cab. The new roof, the roof that I cut off the white cab that was the only thing that was able to save off that white body was the roof basically, and the hood. But this piece right here is where off the red cab, the 85 body that I had to cut off to fuse the white body's roof back on, and then do the interior panels too. So this is for this piece right here is the interior cab part, and obviously this is the roof skin part. I'm no body guy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm learning to do paint and body work myself. I find it very fun. I'm a mechanic by trade, and I'm going to stay a mechanic, but I like doing this body work stuff. It's actually soothing to me, and it takes stress off day-to-day stuff, and you know, I always just enjoy doing it. So with having a family that likes to keep their vehicles for probably longer than they rightfully should, and they just kind of beat them into the ground, it's nice for me, because that way I can learn on rebuilding these things, perfect my talents, and then I can move on to doing customer work with this stuff without having to spend years and years and years and years in school, learning tricks of the trade from guys that have been doing this for years is good too. But I've painted some other cars that came out great, done some other stuff. So this is obviously not my first vehicle that I've ever embarked on some paint work by any means, but this is my first actually doing a roof. So I'm going to climb up there and I'll show you where we're at. Like I said, I just did the epoxy coat. It's rough, really rough. I just wanted, because the building that I'm in is not my shop. It's my family member's shop. Oh, there's a fly already on there. Lovely. But it's rough. But I think it welded in really nice. There's no dents. There's no waves. There is a little bit of filler in there, but I just needed to get the sealer on so it wouldn't rust anywhere, because, like I said, the building I was in, we used to house salt in it for our snow plowing business, and stuff tends to rot pretty bad in here. But basically what I ended up doing is where I fused it is right along the edges. I fused it all, butt welded everything all nice and clean. Trying to keep it straight was, you know, incredible, but it actually came out not too bad. You can actually see in the highs and lows and the colors that it actually there isn't any waves or nothing in it. And I mean, it's real rough. The body work, the mud work is not done by any stretch of the imagination. There's actually a really big high spot over here that I gotta tap down, but other than that, not doing this ever, this is the first one, I think it actually turned out really good. Little things that I had found while I was doing this on these rain channels here, there was a lot of rust starting to form, and I was actually going to take and where the body line here is, this is where I was actually going to take the roof off and skin it from here up, but that was a lot of work, a lot more than I wanted to embark on with drilling the spot welds and whatnot. And the structure of the cab was actually pretty good. You can see how rough it is. I never sanded. Like I said, this is just me trying to protect it so I didn't have any rust building up. The inside was sandblasted, so in between the roof and the inside part, everything inside there was sandblasted and then coated with Por 15, and then we put foam insulationing, like that expandable foam and stuff in there to give it some sound deadening, plus rubberized underbody coating and whatnot, just to these trucks are really tinny, so we decided to do that. As Chrysler itself or Dodge themselves, they just had 4 spots of foam rubber up there to basically stop the upper roof skin from the lower roof skin rattling, and that actually to me wasn't enough, so we put more in there, and it's pretty solid. I mean, it still has some flex to it, but it's pretty solid. So anyway, more about this truck. Like I said, it was a special edition one. I don't know exactly what it was, but it's had the Dukes of Hazzard style wheels on it. I don't know exactly what they were called, but it was 318 automatic transmission. The lift kit that's actually on it now is your basic rough country 3/4-inch lift modified. So by meaning that the 3/4-inch lift kit, I think it was 3-inch front, 4-inch rear. What it came with was new front leaf springs, some drop brackets, some components for that. You can see the big spacer on top of the knuckle for the steering, stuff like that. Front end was pretty good. We still got to put a new stabilizer. We're going to put a dual stabilizer in this one too, like we did with the 04 Cummins. We're going to hopefully take the plow stuff. The owner of the truck has not decided, and I really hope he decides to, because we'd have to drop this plow bracket way the hell down, and it would just look gaudy, and I'm not about that. I'd rather have the plow stuff taken completely off and just gone back to a good old boy truck and be done with it. But anyway, back to the lift. It's a rough country 3/4 basic.
cheap, under 500 bucks. I think it was like 450 bucks. Came with Rough Country shocks, they're actually quite nice. They didn't come with boots, so I had found some old boots off some older steering stabilizers and stuff that we did. Hey, nice, got a windshield wiper down here. But where we actually modified it, front end stuff went on good, but where we actually modified it was in the back. This truck had a 3-inch spacer block already in it, which is this. It came with a 3-inch spacer block, and then the lift kit came with an additional 3-inch spacer block. And I'm like, well, shit, I'm not gonna have 6 inches spacer blocks on in a leaf spring. That looks, number one, stupid, very stupid. I'm not even happy with the way it is here, but it's unsafe. The axle's gonna wrap when I have to fabricate track bars for this anyway. So, or Caltrax or something. But again, babbling here. I'm sorry. I'm new to this YouTube thing and vlogging and everything else, so give me time, people. But at any rate, so we ended up getting these leaf springs for when we were gonna make this truck, the red cab truck with the 8-foot bed. We were actually gonna make this truck into a 2-wheel drive 12-valve Cummins drag truck or street truck or whatever. So we got these are actually Dorman part number. I don't know exact part number, but they're actually Dorman leaf springs, replacements for a 1991, 92 Dodge 2500 or 250, I believe it was, with a diesel in it. So the spring pack on it is not that heavy duty. It's not like a 1-ton, but they're it's only one additional leaf over what the original springs were that were in this truck. But what was the brilliant thing about it is the arc was already a 3-inch lift from just the way the spring was manufactured. So what I ended up doing was taking the original leaf springs, which are old and wore out and pretty flat, took that lift block, one of the lift blocks out. Again, this is the original lift block to the truck that came with it, and then put these leaves in, and that gave us our 4-inch lift in the back to finish out the Rough Country lift. And actually, I think, number one, it looks way better, although I'd like to get a leaf that has more arc to it to get rid of that lift block, but it's this right now is a lot more stable, and once we put the track bars in it, it's going to be even more stable, and it'll look much better. And the way I'm going to make the track bars, I'm actually doing it a little bit different. I'm not going to hang the track bars below. I'm actually going to hang them above, just to keep the axle from twisting. The pinion angle is about right for what we need for the lift versus the transfer case, so I'm pretty good on that. So I don't have to really too much worry about that. But I don't know, the lift is pretty nice. We're running a 31 12.5 tires on it. The engine is an engine that I built, a while ago now. It's a 360 30 over. They originally had this motor. We went through 6 318s trying to get a 360. We kept buying motors that were supposedly 360s. Turns out they're not. I did this is where I get back to the RX-7 stuff. I did a 3rd generation RX-7 build, and part of the payment to me was a trade for a supposed 360 out of Dodge Demon, or not Demon, but Dodge early 70s muscle car. So it was a 4-barrel 360 muscle car 360. Well, it turns out it was actually out of a 318 2-barrel out of a 72 van. So that engine ended up going shit. So I got basically ripped off for $500 from an RX-7 customer that these guys just, I'm not going to complain about it, but it's over and done with, blah, blah, blah. But so we finally get a 360, and with the engine that we ended up getting, to base it off of, was an LA block. It's a 1991. The casting 1991. The casting date on this is 8th month, 15th day, 1991. So it's an LA bottom end.
and the intake manifold and the carburetor setup that we had for the LA stuff, that we ended up having a problem with it. So we're like, wow, shit, what are we gonna do? So we ended up ordering some Magnum cylinder heads by mistake. The owner of the vehicle did, because we had gotten camshaft for it that had the roller tip rockers and all other shit. Well, the name of that kit is a Magnum kit. So he thought by that it meant that this was actually a Magnum engine, not an LA. Well, lucky enough for us, the cylinder heads from a Dodge Magnum bolt onto the LA block, but that's as far as you're going to go with it. You ended up having to go from that point on with all Dodge Magnum engine components. So new intake manifold was needed because of the way it's mounted on, new carburetor, all that fun stuff. So the motor's got a pretty wild cam in it. For being what it is, it's a pretty chunky cam. We got a Holley, now we have a Holley 750 carb on it. Your basic, 750s, nothing too special. MSD distributors in it. I'm actually going to be wiring an MSD 6AL box to it just to help out a little bit more from what we got. Headers, stuff like that. Got an aluminum radiator in it. All in all, the package worked out really well, and it's about 400 horse and about that in torque, and it worked great for snow plowing. It's got a Holley fuel pump in it, just your basic off-the-shelf crap just to get this thing going. And now that we're doing this whole body swap thing and making this truck actually really nice, we're actually going to be putting a much better fuel system in it, cleaning the engine bay up much better, and actually making this thing really nice. The intake manifold, that oddly enough, that's on it is a air gap intake manifold. And that's the only intake manifold that we can actually get our hands on. That's kind of the picture of it. A Hokey fuel pressure regulator and whatnot in it, but it's a nice, strong, running, thumpy piece. And here's a funny thing: we kept on having a lot of problems with our valve covers leaking, right? So you see they say Jeep on it. They're cast aluminum Mopar Jeep valve covers. These don't leak. Well, if you look on Summit, these are the exact same castings as the ones that say Mopar on it, or Ram or anything like that, but instead these say Jeep. These are under $200 for the pair of these cast Mopar valve covers that actually have the Mopar sticker on them from Dodge, and they're under $200. Where the ones that say Mopar or Dodge on them are damn near $500. So if you guys have a Dodge that needs some cast aluminum valve covers, buy the Jeep ones. They're more than half the cost of the ones that say Dodge or Mopar on it. It's hilarious. I don't get it, but whatever. So that's a little tip for you. And the other thing we got problems with is valve train components. Our rockers that we have, those Magnum rockers, are just not right for these valve springs. So I did some finagling with the valve stems on these. They're like 8 millimeters, I think. And the way the wedges are a weird angle. So there's very few components that fit. But come to find out, LS7 stuff works. So you can put honeycomb or beehive LS7 valve springs in it. And the LS7 retainers and whatnot, and everything works just fine. So that's the next upgrade for this engine, is going to be putting beehives, and I think we're going to put some 1/7 ratio rockers in it too, from the 1/6s, just to help out, just get a little bit more thump in the cam. But other than that, this thing is going to end up being really nice. We're going to switch this thing over to serpentine drive belt. We're switching the alternator over to a single wire and getting rid of the external voltage regulator. That's why that voltage regulator is just kind of sitting there. May even switch this thing to fuel injection with just like a Phytech fuel injection system. We're not sure yet. Haven't got that far. But this thing is a cool looking truck, square body type truck that I personally, I think it looks better than the C10. They're next to nothing. We've got, I think, less than $10,000 in the entire truck with purchasing the second truck, building the engine. It's good, solid 400 horsepower motor. Maybe even a little bit more than that. Great amount of torque. It drives really nice with this lift kit. Tires look good. It's got a great stance on it. It's just a good looking all around truck. And once it's finished, this thing is going to be an absolute behemoth. We're going to try squeezing a little bit more power, a little more torque out of it, make it sound a little bit better. But for less than 10 grand, you can put something like this together and have an absolute riot with it. There's nothing special on it. There's a few components that I made, just for bracketries and shit like that, whatnot. But like this radiator, it's a Summit radiator for, I think, a Ford Taurus or some shit like that. Or Torino, or I can't remember. But anyway, it's Ford of some sort. It fits perfect in it. Nice aluminum 3-core radiator for like less than $200, shit like that. So anyway, I don't even know why I'm making this video other than just kind of maybe introducing myself a little bit more, babble some more, show you a new project that I'm working on. You can see like I said, this roof skin turned out pretty good. I mean, obviously, again, the roof, the body work is not done. I still have a whole lot of sanding, but I just needed to seal it. So ends up looking pretty nice, right? So I hope to talk to some of you guys out there. I know I'm starting to get a lot people viewing my stuff, and I like to get a lot more. I like to start doing more projects. Ultimate goal is getting my company back up and running again. Buying a mainline Pro 4000 hub dyno is my ideal. Doing more paint work, stuff like that. Just, having one or two guys work, with me. Real small, kind of a boutique type thing, and show you guys what we're capable of with doing some really cool projects for, not a whole lot of money. It's not like Gas Monkey where you got to spend $100,000 to get a truck that really should only be able to pay 20 grand for. I mean, that shit's getting ridiculous. So, cool. If you guys know any more of these 80s, late 70s, 80s to very early first gen Rams, short wheelbase trucks, even long wheelbase trucks, let me know. I'm looking for a couple of these. I'd like to do a couple of these trucks, put some elbow grease in them, put them back together, make them look really nice, put some alloys or whatever on them, and maybe do some flips and kind of film it as I go along, to show you that you don't have to be a hack. You can do good quality work and yet not rip anybody off. When I was working in the car dealerships, and seeing what all these guys are doing out there with all these big name shops and stuff like that, and seeing how little money and little effort that they put into these vehicles, and then just because they got a fast talking mouth, they end up getting a whole lot of money for this stuff, and then pissing the person that's purchasing this stuff or having the work done, pissing them off quite a bit because of the fast talking mouth. I'm not about that. I'd rather, I'm not, I hate to say it, I'm not in it for the money. Obviously I am, because it's how I make my living, but I'm not in it to rip anybody off. I'd rather earn my money than actually get my money, if that makes sense. So again, if anybody knows of any of these or needs any kind of work done, it's in, anywhere near Southeast Wisconsin,